Let's take a closer look at the AstroFXAurora lighting control interface. This interface is found in both our standalone Aurora systems or integrated into an AstroFX Commander theater control system. The interface consists of two pages, an operation page and a programming page. Let's take a look at the operation page first. For the purposes of this demo, we're going to be using a mouse click to accomplish everything on the screen, but keep in mind that the interface was built to accommodate a touchscreen just as well. Let's start on the right side of the screen with the four faders. You'll notice that there's a red, green, and blue fader to correspond to the three different color channels in our LED strips, as well as a master slider which controls the overall output of the three other channels. The color faders also have a gauge next to them, which is a bit hard to see at the moment since they are black, but they do have a 0 in the middle of them to give you a current value. The gauges show you the actual level of the lights, which may or may not be the same value as the faders. Let's go through a couple of examples to explain this more. Let's say I grab the red fader and bring it up to 100%. You'll notice that the gauge is still black, and any lights connected to the system would not be on either. The reason for this is that although I've told the red channel to go to 100%, the master level is still at 0. As soon as I move the master up, you'll see that the gauge value begins to climb, and the level of your red lights in your dome will go up correspondingly. The same is true in reverse. If I bring down both faders, and this time bring up the master first, again no red lights will come up. This time, as I bring the red fader up, the gauge will climb, and the red lights begin to turn on. One more example to note, which shows the true difference between the slider and the gauge. If I bring the master up to, say, 50% or so, and then grab the red fader and bring it up to 100%, you'll notice that while the fader is all the way up, the gauge maxes out at around 50%, which of course matches the master level. As I move the red fader down, the gauge decreases as well, but proportionally to the master level. Keep in mind that it is the gauge and not the fader that actually gives you the light output of the lights themselves. All these examples obviously will work for green and blue as well. What this mode of operation means is that you can set a color that you like, say for instance a nice violet. Then you can simply fade the color down just by moving the master fader. This allows you to work with more interesting colors without having to worry about manipulating three faders at the same time to keep the color consistent. Now that we've talked about basic light operation, let's talk about a few other tools on this page that allow you to even more flexibility in your control. In the bottom middle of the page is a box marked Fade Time. Here you can set how long the fade that you execute with the faders will take. You simply hit the up or down arrows to adjust the minutes, seconds, or tenths of a second. Additionally, you can click on the number field itself and enter the time you want with the pop-up number pad. These fade times allow you to create nice smooth fades that utilize the 16-bit architecture on our LED strips. So, no matter how quickly I move the fader up and down, the fade will take the specified amount of time. To the right of the fade box, underneath the faders, is a start and end strip box. This is available if you have an advanced Aurora system. In these systems, each 12-inch strip is individually addressable, which means that you can have each fixture perform a unique task. Here, you simply pick a strip number as the first strip in your effect, and then pick the last strip you want to use. Once these are set, you can adjust your faders as before, only this time the effect will only happen to the range you specified. As with the fade time control, clicking, or touching in the case of a touchscreen, on the number field will bring up the number pad for direct input of a number. Note that the reset button will set the system back to a default on all the strips in your system. Working our way around the screen further, we have a Cove On and Cove Off button. These do exactly what they say they do. On brings all the strips up to full brightness. Off takes all the lights down to 0, regardless of what level they were previously at. Above that is a list of other functions or effects that are available. The contents of the list will depend on what system you have, as some are dependent on individually addressed strips. As you click on different choices in this list, the window next to it will change so that you can enter or select the parameters needed for that choice. In live mode, which is what we've been working on so far, the window lists all of the saved scenes in your system. We'll be discussing scenes in depth very shortly, but let's finish the rest of this list first. Wipe allows you to turn on a series of strips in a row in sequence, thus creating a wipe effect. Once you click on Wipe, you can select the color you want the strips to wipe to, as well as which strips you want to use in the effect. Once these parameters are set, you simply hit Execute and the wipe will start. Wipe Off is the opposite of Wipe, where all the strips in a range will be turned off sequentially. Obviously, you don't need to select a color for this effect, but you can set a range if you wish. Chase turns a strip onto a certain color and then back to the initial color in sequence, creating the illusion of a single light source moving around the cove. As with Wipe, you can set the color you want the chase to be, as well as the range. Chase Off is the chase version of Wipe Off, and again turns off the lights when moving through the cove. Flash simply flashes whichever range you define at whatever color you choose. Now that we've gone over the operating page, let's delve a bit deeper and talk about some of the more in-depth programming aspects of the interface.